Okay, Boker Tov. We are on Daf Dalid Amud Bet. So we are in the middle of a sugya. We're discussing how do we know that a mitzvah aseh is doche lo taseh, that an aseh overrides a lo taseh. So just we'll go a little bit of outside review. The Gemara brought from a pasuk lo tilbash shadnes semer upishtim yachtav, that you can't wear shatnez, tzemer, and pishtim together, and then it says gidilim ta'aselach, that you have to put tzitzit. So we learn from there that when a person is in a situation where in order to fulfill tzitzit, he has to override shatnez, so we learn from that pasuk that they're next to each other, smuchim, that you wear tzitzit, the aseh of tzitzit, putting tzitzit on the beged, overrides the isur of shatnez. And the Gemara says everyone agrees that we make this type of drasha of two psukim that are next to each other in Mishneh Torah. And we said why, meaning in Sefer Dvarim. If you have two psukim that are next to each other in Sefer Dvarim, everyone agrees that you make some type of drasha. We learn from the pasuk Simuchin La'ad Olam, we make a drasha of Simuchim. Why is Sefer Dvarim different? So the Gemara gave two options. Either because it's mukach, either because one pasuk is out of place, and it must be that it's there for a drasha because it's not where it belongs, or because it's mufne, or because the pasuk is available, there are extra words, and therefore we make a drasha. Okay, so we're on the very, very top of Daf Dalid Amud Bet. So v'gabei tzitzit, first line, top of the line. It says v'gabei tzitzit, and when it comes to tzitzit, nami, we say the same thing. We make a drush of smuchin to tell me that aseh of tzitzit is doche, overrides the lo taseh of wearing shatnez, that if the only way somebody can put tzitzit on their beged is to override shatnez, he does the aseh of putting tzitzit on the beged, and that overrides the isur of shatnez. So gabe tzitzit nami, we make this drasha of, right. I gave everybody a paper. Everyone should have a paper with 3 psukim on it, a little bit like color coded. So the drasha we're talking about is from the first pasuk, lo tilbash shatnez semer pishtim yachtav. And then right away, right next to it, it says Gedilim ta'aselach al arba kanfot kisutecha shetachaseba. You can't put shatnez, and then it says make tzitzit. So how can we make a drasha of smuchin over here? So ibayitema mishum demukach. Either the reason is because one of the psukim is clearly out of place, and therefore it's mukach. It must be that there's a drasha to be made here because one of the psukim doesn't belong in this area. Or I could tell you the reason is because it's mufne, because the pasuk there are extra words or extra parts to the pasuk, and therefore it's available for a drasha to be made, and that's why we make a drasha to tell us that aseh is dochelot aseh. So mishum demukach. Now, if we want to go that route, that it's mukach, that the pasuk is clearly out of place, and therefore it must be that I need to make a drasha, that's easy. The second pasuk, the pasuk Gidilim ta'aselach al arba kanfot kisutecha shetachase ba, the pasuk teaching us that you put tzitzit on the corners of your beged, that's out of place. It has no business being in this part of the Chumash. We already had a parsha of tzitzit right before Parsha Korach. Should have been over there. Why is it here? Why is it being written in this area of the Chumash right next to the Isur of Sha'adnez? So that is very clear. That's very easy, that route. It's in the wrong place. Since the pasuk is in the wrong place, it must be that it's here to teach me a drasha. It purposely put it next to the pasuk of Sha'adnez to teach me a drasha that the aseh of tzitzit overrides the lo ta'aseh of Sha'adnez. Good. Now, if you want to go the other route, and we have to find extra words in the pasuk to be able to make this drasha, so let's try to figure out which words are extra over here. Michti. Ketiv ubeged kilaim shadnez lo ya'ale alecha. There's a different pasuk in Sefer Vayikra that says not to put shatnez. So this pasuk of shatnez that we have here is extra. If you look at the paper I gave you, right, there's the first pasuk. Huh? Yeah, so kilayim is shatnez. It's talking that pasuk is talking about all different types of kilayim. It says et chukotai tishmoru, keep my laws. Behemtecha lo tarbiya kilayim. You can't make a mixture between your animals. Sadecha lo tizra kilayim. You can't make a mixture of plants in your field. Ubeged kilayim shatnez lo yale alecha. And also clothing of kilayim, which is shatnez, wool and linen mixed together, lo yale alecha. You can't have it on you. So from this pasuk, we see an isur of shatnez. The pasuk in the first one that I quoted, lo tilbash shatnez semro pishtim yachdav, that pasuk is extra. So the Gemara is suggesting, well, that pasuk is extra. Since it's extra, we can make a drasha, right?
What's extra? It tells you what shatnez means.
Oh, you're saying I wouldn't have known semro shatnez is wool and linen? Okay, very good, beautiful. So we're gonna get to that. Beautiful. Okay, excellent. So the Gemara is setting us up for all of this. Perfect. So says the Gemara, Lo tilbash shadnez lamali. Why do I need the pasuk of Lo tilbash shadnez, the first pasuk that's quoted here? So Shema mina lafnuye, the Gemara wants to suggest it must be extra, and it's extra. It's available for us to make a drasha. Therefore, we're making this drasha. So the Gemara says, no, not so fast. Hani mitzrach tzriche. No, I need both of these psukim by shadnez. Why? One of them says lo tilbash. You see in red, the part that's red. One of them says lo tilbash. One of them says lo ya'aleh. So di katav rachamana lo ya'aleh alecha. If the Torah would have only wrote the pasuk in Vayikra, the one that says lo ya'aleh alecha, hava amina kol derech ha'ala asar rachamana. I would have thought that any type of putting shatnez on oneself would be asur. Afilu mochrei kesut. Even the mochrei kesut. Who are mochrei kesut? So they're people that are just trying on clothes in front of their customers to show them the quality and show them what it looks like. So they're not really having kavanah to wear the clothing as clothing and get hana'ah from it. They're just trying to sell it. Someone hired them to work in their store and to be a salesman to sell some clothes. So, they put on this jacket, they put on this hat, they put on this shirt, and they're showing people what it looks like. So they're people that don't have kavanah for any type of hana'ah. They're not wearing the clothing to protect them from the heat or from the sun or from the rain or from the cold. They're wearing the clothing just to show it to customers. So if it would have said lo ya'ale alecha, I would have thought even if you're not having any hana'ah, you can't have it on you at all. So therefore, katav rachamana lo tilbash. Therefore, I need the other pasuk of lo tilbash shadnez to teach me dumya dilvisha de'it behana'ah, to teach me that it's not allowed to go on you when it's similar to wearing it, that there's some type of hana'ah. You're putting it on you to protect you because you're cold or it's hot, you don't want the sunburn or whatever it is. It's some type of hana'ah that you get from the fabric of the garment. So therefore, I need the pasuk of lo tilbash. Now, why couldn't I have just said lo tilbash shatnez and forget about the other pasuk of lo ya'ale alecha? So ve'i katav rachamana lo tilbash, if the Torah would have only said lo tilbash shatnez, and it wouldn't have said lo ya'ale alecha, hava amina davka levisha denafish haniyata. I would have thought it's this isur is specifically wearing when he's getting a complete hana'ah from the garment. Aval ha'ala, but if it just goes on him and it's like a minor hana'ah, he just maybe has it something on his lap or something like that, that he's not wearing it and it's not a full complete hana'ah of clothing, but it's like a minor hana'ah. Lo, I would have thought that would not be included. Therefore, katav rachamana lo ya'ale alecha. Therefore, the Torah says lo ya'ale alecha. So what the Gemara is saying is no. I need both of these psukim. I need lo tilbash shatnez to teach me that if you just have it on you, but you're not having a hana'ah from it, that's not asur. So mochrei ksut, people who are just trying on, clothing to show the customers, that's not an isur That's not an isur of shatnez. And I need lo ya'ale alecha to teach me that it's lav dafka wearing, but any type of having it on you where there's even a minimal hana'ah, but there's actually some kavanah for hana'ah, is asur. So I need both of these psukim to get the point across. If it would have just said, don't wear shatnez, so I would think, okay, I can't wear it, but I could have a blanket on my lap, I could have some minor hana'ah of shatnez. Therefore, it says no, lo ya'aleh. And if it would have only said lo ya'aleh, I would have thought that even if I don't have kavanah for hana'ah, I'm not getting any hana'ah from it, I'm just putting it on me to show someone else, it would be asur. Therefore, it says lo tilbash. So I need both of these to get to that medium where I'm learning you can't get any type of hana'ah from shatnez being on you.
You're allowed to get hana from selling shatnez?
Yeah.
I didn't know, but Kohen Gadol, where was Shabbos?
Okay, good. We're gonna get to that too. Beautiful. That's we
So was
have
it in the same garment, or it was one linen garment and one wool garment?
no in the same garment.
Oh,
He had. We're actually gonna see it soon.
okay.
Um, so the Gemara says, okay, you're right. So the whole pasuk is not extra, but maybe part of the pasuk is extra. What our goal right now is to find out if we have anything extra in the pasuk, so that we can make this drasha of smuchim. Once we have extra words, then we're on it. We can make a drasha and we can learn aseh docha lo ta'aseh. So the Gemara says, okay, imken lichtov rachamana lo tilbash shadnes. Tzemer upishtim lamali. The words that are in blue, tzemer upishtim, are extra. Now, why are they extra? So the Gemara is going to explain. Michti. Katav ubeged kilayim shadnez lo yale alecha. We have another pasuk that says beged kilayim shadnez lo yale alecha. The pasuk in Vayikra. The word beged, which I put in purple, says we learned something special from that word. Vetana de Rabbi Ishmael. Rabbi Ishmael teaches Ho'il v'ne'emru b'Torah stam begadim. Since in the Torah a lot of times it says the word beged. Uparad lecha hakatuv ba'achad mehen tzemer upishtim. And there's one place where the Torah specifies beged, tzemer, or pishtim by tzarat. When there's tzarat on a beged, the pasuk says on a beged tzemer or pishtim. So either wool or linen. So we learn from that pasuk that anytime it says beged, afkol tzemer upishtim. Anytime it says beged in the Torah, it's either tzemer or pishtim, either wool or linen. So from
One or the other, or both?
it's one of those two. But in this context, when it says beged kilayim,
Oh, it's plural. So
it's
both.
yeah, it's a means a beged of wool and linen, because beged is wool, linen. So beged kilayim, we already know from that pasuk.
Beged Kilayim became Shatnez.
Yeah, it's called shadnez. We're gonna get into that word. I think that comes up in like a daf or two in a few days. We're gonna get to what we learned from the word shadnez. But for now, what we're pointing out is Tana de Rabbi Ishmael learns from the word beged. Anytime it says beged, that means wool and linen. How do we know that? Because when the Torah says beged by tzarat, it says bebeged semer or bebeged pishtim. So it says beged tzemer or beged pishtim. So beged means wool or beged means linen. So in this context where it says beged kilaim shadnez lo yale alecha, that means a beged that has a mixture of wool and linen. So I already know shatnez is wool and linen from the purple word, from ubeged, according to this teaching of Rabbi Ishmael. So tzemer upishtim, the words that are in blue, are extra. I already know shatnez means wool and linen. So tzemer upishtim dekatav rachamana lamali. Why do I need the Torah to tell me those words, tzemer upishtim? So shema mina lafnuye, they must be extra. And once they're extra, now I have room to make the drasha to tell me that tzitzit overrides shatnez. So the Gemara says, no, not so fast. Vakati itzrich. I still need tzemer upishtim, specifically in the pasuk of lo tilbash. Why? Salka da'ata chamina ha'alahi delo nafish haniyata. I might have thought in the pasuk in Vayikra, where it says ubeged kilaim shadnez lo yale alecha. I would have thought by ha'ala, by just putting shatnez on without actually wearing it, where it's not a complete hana'ah, I would have thought that that's when it's only wool and linen. Aval levisha, but when you're actually wearing the beged and getting a full hana'ah from the beged, the nafish haniata, that it's a complete hana'ah, kol mini asar. I wouldn't have limited it to wool and linen. I would have extended it to any type of mixture of different materials. So I think possibly what it means here is chardonnay is it's material from an animal and material from plants, but it's specifically wool and linen, right? If a person takes, I don't know, camel fur and mixes it with linen, that's not chardonnay. It's specifically wool and linen. So it could be the hava amina here is any mixture of animal material and plant material. You mix cotton and camel fur or whatever. Also, that would be a problem. Or rabbit fur. I don't know, right? I would have thought that maybe shatnez is any two types of minim that you're mixing together by wearing. Meaning the Gemara says, I have a havamina here that maybe it specifically needs to write tzemer pishtim, wool and linen, because I would have thought when it comes to wearing, shatnez is extended to any two types of materials that are mixed together. Because wearing is more of a hana, therefore we're more strict with it. So I need the tzemer pishtim to tell me, no. Even with wearing, it's limited to only wool and linen. So therefore, katav rachamana tzemer upishtim. That's why it says tzemer upishtim, and therefore it's a not extra, and we can't make this whole drasha of smuchin. So the Gemara says no, that's not true. Why? Imken lishtok kramine. If that's the case, if you need to learn that it's only wool and linen, so the pasuk didn't need to write tzemer upishtim. It didn't need to write wool and linen. Vetete shadnes mehalaa. Meha'ala, Vetana debe Rabbi Ishmael. We would have learned shatnez from the pasuk of Lo Ya'aleh and use this Tana debe Ishmael. Now, what does that mean? So the word that's in orange, shatnez, right? So let's say it didn't say tzemer pishtim in the top pasuk. Would have just said Lo tilbash shatnez. Right. Don't wear shatnez together. Don't wear shatnez. So I would have learned what's shatnez. I would have jumped to the other time in the Torah it says shatnez. Ubeged kilaim shatnez. And I would have learned from the word beged. Tanda Deberi Bishmal says beged is wool and linen. So that means shatnez is a mixture of wool and linen. And I would have applied it to the pasuk in Devarim. So I would have learned lo tilba shatnez. Oh, shatnez means wool and linen, just like I have in the other pasuk. Beged is wool and linen, and it says beged of shatnez. So this also shatnez is wool and linen. So I wouldn't have needed really tzemer pishtim to teach me that it has to be wool and linen. Therefore, we're coming out that the words tzemer pishtim are really extra. And if the words are extra, it's coming to teach me that um, that aseh dochelot aseh, right? That's the platform over here. That's the like background is the whole amud is predicated on this. We're trying to find which two words or which words in the pasuk are extra. Once we find extra words, and now we can jump in and make this drasha that tzitzit is doche shatnez, aseh is doche lo taseh. So the Gemara says, right at this point, we're saying these two words, tzemer or pishtim, are completely extra. Because we.
Is yachtav also extra?
Okay, so we're gonna get that. I put that in green because, if I remember correctly, the Gemara gets to that word at some point. I didn't go so far ahead yet, but at some point the Gemara is gonna get to that word. Okay, so ta'ama dekatav rachamana tzemru pishtim. So the Gemara says, okay, good, fine. So the whole reason that we're able to make this drasha is because you found these two extra words. The Torah wrote tzemer upishtim, and those words are extra. Halav hachi, but if not for this, if not for those two extra words, kilaim betzitzit hava amina da'asar rachamana. I would have thought that you can't put shatnez on tzitzit. Meaning, if not for those two words, I would have thought shatnez on tzitzit is going to be asur. You have to be mevatel the right. This is teaching me tzitzit overrides shatnez, right? These two words, tzemer pishtim, are extra. Once they're extra, I can make this drasha that tzitzit overrides shatnez. So that means that if I would not have had these two words, I would not have had this drasha. Tzitzit would not override shatnez. So the Gemara says, is that really true? Vaktiv v'asulahem tzitzit al kanfei vigdehem. The pasuk says, this is the last pasuk that I put on the paper, that asulahem tzitzit, you put tzitzit al kanfei vigdehem on the corners of your bigadim. Vetana deber Ishmael, kol bigadim tzemer upishtim, and we know that Rabbi Ishmael teaches that a beged is tzemer upishtim, wool and linen. So that means over here, al kanfei bigdehem means you're wearing a wool beged or a linen beged. Ve'amar rachamana, and the Torah says, even though you're wearing, let's say, a linen beged, avid le techelet, you have to put techelet on it. Ve'techelet amrahu, and techelet is wool. Now, how do I know techelet is wool? So we're not going to get into it so much right now, but this is where it gets involved in the Bigdei Kehuna. The Bigdei Kehuna have different materials, so and we know that there's shatnez in the clothes of the Kohen. So says the Gemara, Umimai de techelet amralhu. How do I know that techelet is wool? Mideshesh kitna, from the fact that shesh, one of the other materials that the Kohen had in his beged, was linen. Techelet amra. It must be that techelet is wool because those things together make the shatnez and the beged of the Kohen. So what we're saying is techelet is wool, and bigdehem means wool or linen. So let's just plug these things into the pasuk. It says v'asu lahem tzitzit al kanfei bigdehem. They have to wear tzitzit on the corners of their beged, which includes a linen beged. And then it says, what do they have to put on the tzitzit? Petil techelet. They have to put a string of techelet, which is wool. So he's weaving wool into through the linen beged. He's attaching wool onto the linen beged. So even without this whole drasha of, oh, tzemer pishtim, and it's extra, and we make a drasha of smuchim, forget all that. Just plug in what we learned into the pasuk. It says bigdehem. We learned that means wool or linen. So we're even talking about a linen beged. And then it says techelet, which is wool. So you're putting wool into a linen beged. Right there you have shatnez. Why do you have to go find this drasha of smuchim and tzemer and pishtim is extra, a whole amud figuring out which words are extra? Forget about extra words. I have a different pasuk that's very clearly telling me you're wearing a linen beged and you put wool in it for tzitzit.
Maybe they screwed it.
So, okay, so let's see. So the Gemara says itzterich. No, I still need to learn from tzemer upishtim. I still need those words in blue on top. Why? Salka da'ata chamina kederava. Because I would have thought to say like Rava. What does Rava say? The Rava Rami. Rava asked the following question. Ktiv hakanaf. The pasuk says hakanaf petil techelet. You put on tzitzit hakanaf, on the tzitzit of the corner of the beged, a petil techelet. So Rava learns from there hakanaf min kanaf. The strings of the tzitzit have to be the same material as the beged itself. Which this is lahalacha. If a person's not wearing a wool or linen beged, if a person's wearing a silk beged, so the strings of tzitzit have to be silk. If a person is wearing some other material, the strings, I don't know, he's wearing nylon, the strings have to be nylon, right? The beged, the strings have to be the same material as the beged. Uchtiv, and it says in the pasuk, tzemer upishtim, it says wool and linen. So on the one hand, it says whatever material the beged is, you have to have the, if it's silk, it's silk. If it's nylon, it's nylon. If it's this, it's it. But on the other hand, it says tzemer upishtim. So haketzad, how is this so? How do you put everything together? So tzemer upishtim potrin ben beminan ben shelo beminan. Wool or linen tzitzit, they cover the chiyuv of tzitzit, whether the beged is their same type, whether it's not. Meaning, strings of wool or linen will cover tzitzit for a nylon beged, or for a silk beged, or for any other material beged. But shar meaning other materials of strings, beminan potrin shelo beminan ein potrin. They only will cover the chiyuv of tzitzit for their own mean. So if a person has silk strings, it'll only work on a silk beged. It won't work on any other type of beged. But if a person has wool strings or linen strings, those will cover the chiyuv of tzitzit on any type of beged. So that's what we're saying right now. We're saying you need tzemer upishtin, because if not, I would have thought you can't learn from big dehem and you're putting techelet on the beged? Because I would have thought to make this drasha like Rava that you put on whatever string on the meaning the same material on the beged itself. So I wouldn't have known that tzemer upishtim would cover everything. Therefore, I need tzemer upishtim. So the Gemara says, what are you talking about? Vatana de Rabbi Yishmael leile de Rava. The Tana de Rabbi Yishmael cannot hold of Rava. Why? Right? Tana de Rabbi Yishmael cannot hold of Rava. Why? Because Tana de Rabbi Yishmael learns that beged is only either wool or linen. There's no such thing as tzitzit on a beged that's not wool or linen. There's a big machloket um, in the Gemara. If a person has a beged that's silk, is it chayav in tzitzit or no? According to Tana the Rabbi Ishmael, what does big dehem mean? What is beged? Wool or linen. So if a person has a silk beged, it's not chayav in tzitzit. According to Rava, it is. According to Rava, we learn from hakanaf, min kanaf, that any type of material is chayav in tzitzit, and the tzitzit need to be the same material as the beged itself. But the Gemara is asking, you can't say, oh, I would have thought that Tana the Rabbi Ishmael, you need Tzemer Pishtim because otherwise he would say like Rava. What do you mean? He won't say like Rava. Rava um, doesn't. Rava holds that every type of beged is chayav and tzitzit. Tana the Rabbi Ishmael holds only wool and linen. So the Gemara clarifies, and this is the maskana over here. Salka da'ata chamina ki diuka de Rava. I would have thought to make the same diuk that Rava makes, that hakanaf min kanaf, that we learn, hakanaf, the corner, from that word, we learn that the tzitzit have to be the same material as the beged. V'achi kama rachmana, and this is what the Torah would be telling you. Avid letzemer pishtim lepishtim. If you're wearing a wool beged, you have to put wool tzitzit, and if you're wearing a linen beged, you have to put linen tzitzit. And if you're wearing a wool beged, then you have to put techelet. But if you're wearing a linen beged, maybe you don't have to put techelet. Meaning you don't see, the whole question was, from this pasuk of hakanaf petil techelet, you see, oh, you're wearing a beged, which is wool or linen, and you're putting techelet on it. So you see from there that the chiyuv of tzitzit overrides shatnez, because you're wearing a linen beged and you're putting techelet, which is wool. The Gemara says, no, no, no. I would have thought that the Torah is telling me, if you're wearing a wool beged or a linen beged, you have to put tzitzit, and the string has to be the same material as the beged. In the event that you're wearing a wool beged, then you need to have techelet also, because techelet is wool. But you would not put wool in a linen beged. So I don't have any proof from this pasuk that I would have put wool in a linen beged. Therefore, I need to go back to the pasuk of Tzemer Upishtim, the first pasuk on the page, and learn the way I was learning, that Tzemer Upishtim is extra to teach me that smuchim, to teach me to learn smuchim. Right? Aval Tzemer lepishtim upishtim letzemer lo. I wouldn't have known that you would put wool on a linen beged or linen on a wool beged. Therefore, katav rachamana tzemer upishtim. The Torah writes tzemer upishtim. Dafilu tzemer lepishtim upishtim letzemer. That you would even put tzemer on pishtim and pishtim letzemer. So, what are we coming out? Just a 1-minute synopsis of what we did. This was, I know, a lot of the drushot here, a lot of back and forth, a lot of cheshbon. It's not such an easy amud. But basically what we're coming out, la halacha, is, so we have a few psukim. So this pasuk, the bottom pasuk of al kanfei bigdehem ledorotam v'natnu al tzitzit kanaf petil techelet. Bigdehem means wool and linen. Techelet means wool. Maybe means to teach me that you're putting wool into a linen beged. The Gemara says no. I would have thought that if you're wearing a wool beged, that's when you put techelet. But if you're wearing a linen beged, you would not put techelet. You would not put wool in the linen beged. Therefore, I cannot learn anything from shatnez out of this pasuk. I have to go to the top pasuk and learn from the extra words tzemer upishtim. Those words are extra. Once they're extra, I have extra words. I can make the drasha of smuchim and say that these two psukim are put here right next to each other to teach me a halacha. What's the halacha that it's teaching me? Gidilim ta'aselach, this chiyuv of tzitzit overrides the isur of shadnes. So we learn from that pasuk that if a person, the only way he can be yotzeh, the chiyuv of tzitzit, is by overriding shadnes, he does it. So we're learning from the original pasuk. Really, we started off yesterday's daf with this, right? Dichtiv lo tilbash shadnes, gidilim ta'aselach. We went through a whole amud of back and forth, and we're ending off with this for now. So for now, this is the limud according to Tana Deber Yishmael. This is the limud we learned from Tzemer Pishtim, these two extra words, and Smuchim, the fact that these two psukim are next to each other. We make a drasha that Aseh is doche lo
This
taseh.
is talit.
Yeah.
Has to be shot.